Hello everybody and welcome to Mindset Monday. My name is Sally Garozzo and this is the place to be to become happier and more fulfilled in your life. So today's session is called How to Surrender. And this session is for you if you can't help being a bit controlling, being a bit of a perfectionist, but you know it's causing you stress and anxiety. This is also for you if you know you need to surrender, but you just don't know how to do it. And this is for you if you think surrendering sounds really good, but you have no idea what it is and you would like actually to learn a little bit more. So grab a notebook and pen and let's go, shall we? So, the dictionary definition of surrender is to stop resisting an enemy and to give yourself over to the authority. It also means to give up or hand over a possession. Now, we're used to thinking of surrendering actually as a weakness or as a flaw in that someone has subjugated us so much that we can no longer withstand it. And so what we do is we fall into their authority because it's actually a better option than going on with this war or this conflict. So from a therapeutic point of view, we can actually use this analogy of war because most of us actually are at war within ourselves, and this war is usually caused by these unrealistic expectations that have been set up from parenting, and unrealistic expectations that have been set up from media, from traditions, the landscape of the culture basically. And these expectations usually say in some way, shape or form that we need to be better in some way. We need to be richer, we need to be more beautiful, we need to be more intelligent, we need to be braver, we need to be sexier, maybe we need to, whatever it is, have more children, maybe we need to travel more, whatever it is. But of course, a lot of these expectations are impossible for a lot of us. And if they are possible, then they take a little bit of time to achieve. They don't just happen overnight. But what happens is we're here wanting to control everything so that we can make damn sure that it's going to happen. So we use this like grit and this grr and this determination. And we end up exhausted. We end up with massive internal conflict. And we just feel like, why is it all our responsibility? And we just feel like we've been taken for granted. Now, the premise is whenever we are at war with ourselves, what happens is we become out of alignment with ourselves energetically. We become out of alignment with nature because that is not how nature works. Trees grow, plants grow organically in their own time. They don't push for growth. And we are of nature. Okay, so they cannot be true inner peace when we are at war with ourselves, pushing against all of the time, using this sort of gritted teeth mentality. Okay, so just as a little side note, because I want to give this a little bit of a wider context here, we still have primitive brains. There's a primitive brain in this old head of mine, and I believe that we as a human race are in the process of evolving. Obviously, we're always evolving, but that is why a lot of us have anxiety and high stress levels, because we are having to learn to adapt, right? Sorry, bear with. Okay. So in tribal times, our brains were always looking for danger, right? And if we came across any dangers, our stress hormones would go through the roof so that we could run our little legs off and, run away from the tiger or whatever it was. But today, the problem is not the bear or the tiger. The problem is the traffic jam, the meeting. The problem is the overwhelming amount of things we have to do online these days. which we think, can't seem to wait, and this sort of anxiety that we might be late or we might let somebody else down. And all of these things are sort of sedentary. Our lives are quite sedentary at the moment, unless you're a gardener or a builder or something like that. But for most of us, our lives are quite sedentary because they are in front of a computer, which means these stress hormones build. And the last thing we feel like doing actually is surrendering. But I'm going to tell you how we can surrender in a minute, and I'm going to get back on course in a minute. But it seems like we've lost the ability to wait and to be patient and to allow and to accept and to surrender to what is. This fast-paced life, combined with the fact that we have access to what other people's lives look like, combined with this primitive stress response, means we want it all now. And we think that we have to try to fix it all ourselves as well. And let me ask you a question. When was the last time you felt bored? I was thinking about this the other day. We don't give ourselves chance to be bored anymore. Boredom is not a thing anymore. We're all becoming so wired for being constantly entertained. And if we're not being entertained, we feel like something is missing. We feel like there's something sort of wrong, like we need to be chasing something, and then we end up with this like fear of missing out, this FOMO as I call it, which leads to this compulsion to be busy all of the time. Now, surrendering is something that we can do as an antidote to wire ourselves differently, to wire ourselves for inner peace, inner calm, and patience, and ultimately happiness, because none of these things that we think we want actually give us happiness. Maybe they do temporarily, but inner peace, inner calm will give us happiness permanently. So what does surrendering look like? And who the hell are we surrendering to? So surrendering in a therapeutic sense says, I don't want to carry this burden anymore. I need help. Take it from me. It says, I don't see how I'm going to change my circumstances, so I'm just going to stop trying. I'm going to let go. I'm going to throw the towel in. I'm going to wave that white flag. Surrendering says, I've tried to think of every single way out of this problem, but I just can't see it, and I'm going to stop thinking about it now. Would someone please take this problem off me? Now, often our thinking mind ends up tying us in knots in the first place, and so therefore more thinking is not going to help. That's why this act of going, you take it, I can't deal with it anymore, feels like what we need to do at the time. So here is the real juice in this jam. Who the heck are we surrendering to when we give up, when we let go, if there's nobody else in the room taking our problems for us? Well, I wanted to tell you about this podcast that I've been listening to. It's Russell Brand with guest Bishop Stephen Cottrell. And obviously the bishop, he's a Christian bishop, Church of England faith. And he was talking about what it actually means to be a Christian. Now, I'm not a Christian. My grandparents were Christian, so I do have a bit of experience of going to church and stuff, but I don't consider myself to be Christian. But one of the very useful things that Christians believe is that God is on your side and God loves you unconditionally. And if you join him, you can give him all of your problems and he will sort everything out for you. He will take it all away. He will manipulate life so that you don't have to worry about it. Now, whether you believe that to be true or not, from a psychotherapeutic point of view, I can totally see how this works. Because when you give your problems away to a higher power that you 100% believe in, guess what happens? You relax. It's like, when you talk to your solicitor, you relax, or you talk to the doctor, you relax, because it's like you're giving some of the weight of that over to a specialist. Well, in the Christian sense, God is the specialist. But something very interesting happens when you give it away and you 100% believe in the person that you are giving it away to. You relax and your brain wave frequency actually changes. It slows down. And that causes your nervous system to relax, your muscles to relax. You ungrip, you unclench, you let go, and you surrender. And that is where I believe the magic happens. Because when you are relaxed, you can think clearer. Okay, so you might get a light bulb moment that is a solution to your problems. Now, a Christian would say that that's God or Jesus giving them the answer. But it doesn't matter what you believe to be true. The fact is the answers come as you are more relaxed. Now, it might be when you've surrendered, when you've let go, you might not even feel like it is a problem anymore. You might think, why on earth was I even worrying about it? Because it doesn't seem like it's got that much gravitas, that much weight anymore. Or when you let go, when you surrender, you might find that your outer circumstances change. Something might happen and they might line up for you in your favour. Problems get solved in a really weird kind of way. So the truth is, when we get out of the way, when we hand it over to some kind of higher power or nature or whatever, things can end up looking very, very different. But it's hard to let go and surrender. We're not used to doing it. We think that we are the ones that have to control, manipulate everything. But that's not always true. So I want to give you a case in point here. Now, one of my recent clients, she had a very latchy brain. She get fixated and not be able to drop it until until she's sort of worked out every eventuality. And my God, it was exhausting to listen to, but it must have been exhausting for her as well. Now, she was ex-army, she was an ex-PT instructor, run marathons, done all of that stuff, highly controlled individual who'd come to me for very bad anxiety. Her mum died 14 years ago, her dog died, there was abuse, there were issues basically. And some of the symptoms of all of this was that she had excess in every area of her life she would tackle with excess. So it would be, if she exercised, it would be in excess. If she ate food or went on a healthy diet, it would be in excess. You get the idea. So one of the things she wanted most was to buy her own house. But for 2 years, it hadn't happened. It was like she was bashing her head against a brick wall. Every turn she made, she just couldn't get through. She'd be blocked. The property would slip through her fingers or something would happen, which would mean that she couldn't have it. And she was beginning to think that, her perfect home just wasn't available to her, or that her expectations were too high or something, and it was driving her absolutely crazy. Now, in the RTT treatment I gave her, it was all around this idea of cultivating or rewiring her for balance, ease, moderation, flow, letting go, being okay with what is, accepting what is, surrendering, let it go. And on our first phone call, post-treatment, after her treatment, she was so much better. She literally said she felt like a different person, but she was still getting frustrated about the house thing. And I could hear how she was literally tying herself up in knots about it. And I was like, you really got to try to unravel this, unpick this. And I know it's like the things we want so bad are the things that we hold on to the most, but they're the things we actually need to let go of the most, right? So I said to her, you really have got to try to get your head around this and, literally take your focus off of it for a while so that you can loosen your grip there. So this is what she did. She sort of loosened her grip. It was very difficult for her to do, but she managed and she did it. And she, at our next phone call, she told me that she had actually found the house of her dreams, and an offer got accepted within the space of a few hours. And, you know, I was so thrilled, and really only she knows the brick walls that she's been hitting, the resistance that she's been facing with this, and only she knows really what a miracle this actually is for her. So I'm really, really proud of her, but it is, you know, it just goes to show what happens if you do surrender and let go. You know, things that you have been hitting a wall with for years can suddenly just work themselves out. You know, she knew she had this impulse to, basically what happened was she distracted herself and then listened to her body and felt the impulse to go on right move, and there it was, and she acted immediately. She knew she'd done that. So that was awesome. So you might be thinking, well, I'm not a Christian, I don't believe in God. And that's absolutely fine, not everybody does, but you can surrender your troubles to nature, you can surrender your troubles to the trees, you can surrender your troubles to the water, to the air, to, you know, a friend, to a therapist, to the universe, to the clouds, to the sky, to the angels, to fairies, whatever you believe in, because the truth is, it doesn't matter what you believe in, because the belief itself is the most powerful thing. As long as you are letting go and handing your troubles over. That's the main thing. So how do we surrender? Well, I like to do this one little thing called letterbox to God, but you can replace the word God with whatever you like. So what you do is you find yourself a nice little box, large enough to fit sort of small pieces of paper inside. So you're going to write little letters. And whenever you find yourself troubled, you're going to write your troubles on a piece of paper and you're going to put them in the box. And when you place your letters in the box, you're going to close your eyes and you're going to imagine that they're being sent to the big problem solver in the sky or your chosen higher power. And I like to have some kind of celestial music in the background, or some music that really motivates me, inspires me, just makes me feel quite heavenly. And you write on your piece of paper, dear whoever, I need help with ... or I can't do this myself because, or I'm surrendering this to you because, please help me with. And you write this letter from the heart. It's got to be from the heart, okay? So it can't be from your mind. It's so important. That's why the music helps, because you've got to get into this emotional place. It's got to be written with passion. And as you write your letter, you finish the letter with, and so it is, I'm letting this go now. Please take this away from me. It's yours. And then you take a deep breath. And as you breathe out, you are kind of sending it off. And it's wonderful. So you don't need to work out the hows. Your brain can then just relax and go about enjoying life, noticing the small pleasures, smelling a flower, noticing the lovely blue sky, the shapes in the clouds. You know, whatever it is that you've got to focus on, you can start to appreciate the little things in life rather than having your head consumed with these enormous worries that, let's face it, your thinking brain can't necessarily help you with all of the time. So it enables you to relax, surrender, let go. When you are relaxed, you're actually so much more capable of solving problems, and actually the solutions tend to just drop in to your brain without you even thinking about it. So surrendering requires practice, and often a lot of us who sorry, this always happens at this point. Surrendering requires practice, and often for a lot of us, surrendering is impossible without the aid of a therapist who can help us rewire our brains. Because if you have a very controlling type of wiring in your brain, maybe you've controlled or tried to control things for years, it's just part of your MO, you know, surrendering is going to feel very unfamiliar to you because your mind absolutely loves what is familiar, and so it keeps going back to that controlling pattern until you rewire it. So rewiring for balance, ease, flow, surrendering, all those lovely things is accelerated through this RTT, through this rapid transformational therapy, which I do, which is this kind of 2-hour process done under hypnosis. And when we're under hypnosis, we can access that phenomenal part of ourselves, the subconscious mind. And we can find out why you have this inability to surrender. Why are you hypervigilant, anxious, wound up like a tightly coiled spring? Why are you taking responsibility for stuff that's not yours? Why can't you just let go? And then when you know why, that means you have clarity. And clarity gives you this awareness. So under hypnosis, we can then change the meaning that you gave to those old memories that caused you to be sort of clenched, if you like, or feel like you have to take it all on. And then you can be free of them, because when you change the meaning of those memories, everything changes. You rewire your mind and the old programming is just gone, and you can begin to live your life the way nature intended. Going back to that nature again. Easeful, slow, lovely, calm, relaxed, all of that stuff, because nature is much slower. Nature runs on a much slower pace than our brains. And I have another video on this. It's got the word controlling in it, how to let go of control or something like that. Now, RTT is one of the most powerful transformational tools that I personally have come across, and I've experienced quite a lot of different therapies, and it really has changed my life, and I want that for you as well. I love it because it's science-based, it's rapid, it's rooted in the neuroscience of neuroplasticity. And you see, in RTT, what we don't do is spend ages and ages talking about your problems. We know what your problems are because we sort them out. We ascertain what they are in the consultation, and then we get straight into the hypnosis, into the regression, and then into the changing part. That's the transformational bit. And that's what a lot of other therapies don't get to. They make you go every single week for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But actually, you know, you can shift your perspective pretty quickly when you know what you're doing. So I hope some of that has resonated with you. Honestly, one of my most favourite books about surrendering there's a few actually, but there's Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, who is actually now running for office in the USA. So she is an absolute must follow. Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, and the other author is Matt Kahn. And all of these authors just really underpin this point that love what is. Even if you don't know how to love what is, love the fact that you don't know how to love what is. Let it go. Give it over to nature. Give it over to a higher power. So if you need a little help and you want to reach out to me, maybe you've got some questions, please do. I love hearing from you. It doesn't matter if you know you don't necessarily want to book an RTT session. That's absolutely fine. I love just building relationships with people. That's what my life is all about. So drop me a DM or email me info@sallygarozzo.com or visit my website sallygarozzo.com, and I will see you next week. Have a great week. Bye.